because, as my mum will tell you, I am the crybaby too. I'm not going to make any apologies for that, because I only get to do this once for my little brother, so... unfortunately, I'm not as skilled as Derek and Martin either, so I will be reading off sheets. So just bear with me, because they're probably mixed up. First off, thanks, James. My first words are dedicated to my co-best man, who, it must be said, really took the lead and organised a fantastic stag do in Spain earlier this year. You really did Josh proud, and it's been great to share this responsibility with you. As I'm sure you'll agree, mate, as soon as I've stopped blathering on, it'll be a relief to have done our duties and cough to the pub. Sorry, Grandma. Sorry. Let's just retire. Before I get into my speech and I start embarrassing my little brother, I'd like to second James's opinion on the bridesmaids, although we all know that Sophie and Heidi screw up pretty well at the worst of times, let alone on special occasions such as this, so well done girls, you've done Beth proud. So, on with the rest. I'd like to take you back to 1983, a good year, saw the introduction of the CD. The £1 coin was first introduced, and Michael Jackson's Thriller topped the charts for 37 consecutive weeks. And then that happened. My perfectly happy little existence is rudely interrupted by the arrival of one Joshua Elliott Meaden. The Elliott being introduced as a result of my being consulted on the choosing of my little brother's middle name, and my parents not agreeing that E.T. was a far better choice. Despite the reassurance I received over the months preceding Josh's birth, I was far from convinced that the puce-coloured, screaming little bundle presented to me could possibly be of benefit. And how right I was. As well as stealing the sole attention I was accustomed to from my mum, although I didn't know it at the time, my share of the hair follicles, allowed to share my room, toys, and general personal space with someone else. I was not amused. Over the following 5 years or so, things didn't really improve. It turned out that Josh had been born with a single-mindedness and temper that has since never been rivaled. And the tantrums he was capable of are the stuff of legend. My dad and I often wondered if he would actually catch fire as he lay on the floor, rubbing his ankles together in frustration. In fact, even a moving vehicle could not deter Josh's determination. As we learned, when my parents tried to remove him from the beach before he was ready, and he promptly tried to jump out of the window of the car. As well as a legendary temper, Josh also began to develop a rather amusing sense of imagination. I first picked this up when he introduced me to his friend Peddy. Origins of name are still unknown, who it turned out could only be seen by Josh himself. Despite much ridicule from myself, I was assured that Peddy did exist, and another tantrum was thrown to back up this conviction. It was about this time that Josh decided to do away with the convention of wearing clothes. Given opportunity, he replaced his underpants with a tea towel, whilst playing Tarzan the Ape Man with Peddy. This also coincided with the decision by Josh that the English language should be revised a little, and words or phrases that we know would suddenly have a little spin on them. Therefore, an apple became ipfwalifwas. Sweets became sweelies. If he was feeling affectionate, he may be offered a sexy kiss on the barley. Or, if he was particularly excited, may simply proclaim, "Ia! Ia!" The exact translation of which is still unknown to this day. A turning point in our relationship came during a family holiday in France, when Josh, after refusing to eat anything other than lollipops for 2 weeks, due to the other culinary offerings being too French, invited me to inspect his luminous green poo. A byproduct of the food colourings, I would imagine. Now, to an 8-year-old, Uma's green poo can seem pretty cool. And I remember thinking, hey, he may not be so bad after all. Over the following years, despite a few setbacks, mainly due to me stealing everything Josh owned and subsequently breaking it, a great friendship began to develop, and I began to finally see some of the benefits that come with having a younger brother, although I've never been sure if Josh has seen any benefits in having an older one. Pushing the boundaries of what our parents deemed acceptable behaviour, I like to think I made Josh's transition through his teen years a little easier, as Mum and Dad began to think, well, it can't be any worse than Tom. That was until Grandma had to bail him out of a police cell at 3 a.m. But that's another story altogether, and a lot less sinister than could be implied, I assure you. During these teenage years, and on into our adult life, I've been lucky enough to share many adventures with my little brother, from backpacking through Vietnam with our dad, spa days with our mum, and lots of debacles involving our mutual friends. The trip mentioned with our dad brought along another confusion Josh has had with languages. This time it was Vietnamese. As anyone who has visited Southeast Asia will know, the locals sometimes neglect to include the letter T when speaking English. Remember, that's important. Whilst visiting a mountain in Da Nang, where the GIs used to go for some well-earned R&R, we came across a very large sculpture, some 30 foot high, of a laughing Buddha. Whilst our Vietnamese guides were explaining the cultural significance of the statue, Josh decided to ask what it made of, to which the reply came, inside concrete, outside semen. To which Josh exclaimed, what, all of it? As you can imagine, the slip in the English language, Josh is thinking that someone else must have indeed come across this statue at some point as well, made me and my dad completely lose it. After we eventually stopped laughing, we then had a very awkward 5 minutes trying to politely explain to the guides what we'd found so funny. Although the opportunities get fewer and fewer these days, we still have a great laugh in each other's company, and hopefully we'll share many more adventures. Although, as Josh puts it, why, when we are together, do the wheels always come off? Kindred spirits, I'd imagine. Ladies and gents, although slightly unusual, I'd like to propose my own toast, just for me and my brother. Sorry. I love you, mate. To my little brother, my best mate, and possibly the only person I would forgive for weighing on my